Stories of the Canal, Chapter 1. Emma and Serendipity. Emma stood on the towpath, the distant chatter of mallard ducks blending with the soft, melodic strumming of a guitar that drifted from a nearby boat. The gentle lapping of water against the hull filled the evening air, adding rhythm to the fading daylight. She gazed at the narrowboat she had just purchased, its faded green paint catching the golden glow of the setting sun. The name Serendipity was stenciled in white across the side. It wasn't just a boat, it was a new beginning, set to a soundtrack of tranquility. For years, Emma had been stuck in the same routine, working long hours at a job she no longer loved, returning each night to a flat that felt more like a cage than a sanctuary. The noise of the city, blaring horns, shouting, the relentless hum of traffic, had become the background score of her life, one she was desperate to escape. Now, as she stepped aboard Serendipity, the only sounds were the creaking of wood beneath her feet and the whisper of wind through the trees, punctuated by the occasional melancholic note of a violin from another boat down the canal. It felt like she was finally free. Her friends had thought she was mad, selling nearly everything she owned and embracing a nomadic life. But as she took in the cozy interior of the boat, the soft crackle of the wood-burning stove in the corner, the faint clink of dishes in the tiny galley kitchen, and the gentle creak of the timbers, Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. A peace that was underscored by the soft, soothing melodies of a piano drifting from somewhere in the distance, its notes mingling with the natural sounds around her. Her first night aboard was restless, filled with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. The boat swayed gently, a soothing motion accompanied by the soft slosh of water against the hull, creating a natural lullaby. She lay in her narrow bed, listening to the distant hoot of an owl, the occasional splash of a fish breaking the surface outside, and the gentle strains of a harmonica playing a slow, mournful tune somewhere along the bank. Eventually, sleep took her, and she dreamed of endless green fields, winding canals, and the freedom of the open water. The next morning, Emma woke to the sound of birds chirping just outside her window, their melodies harmonizing with the soft strumming of a guitar. Sunlight filtered through the windows, casting a warm glow over the small cabin, the only other sound the quiet ticking of a clock on the wall. Emma smiled, stretching lazily before climbing out of bed. There were no blaring alarms, no rush to get ready, just the promise of a day full of possibilities, accompanied by the gentle music of the canal. She spent the day getting to know her new home, the soft hum of the engine providing a steady bass line as she familiarized herself with the boat's workings. By midday, she was ready to set off. The boat chugged to life with a contented murmur as she untied the ropes and pushed away from the towpath. With a deep breath, she guided Serendipity out onto the open canal, the water rippling gently beneath her, creating a soft, rhythmic splashing sound that blended with the distant strains of a flute carried on the breeze. The first stretch of her journey took her along the Grand Union Canal, passing through quiet villages and rolling countryside. Emma marveled at the changing scenery, the overhanging trees that formed leafy tunnels, their leaves rustling in the breeze, the fields dotted with grazing sheep whose bleats added a pastoral harmony. As days passed by, Emma found herself adapting to the slower pace of life on the water. She learned to recognize the different bird calls, the sharp cry of a kingfisher, the cheerful chatter of swallows, and the best spots to moor for the night, where the only sounds were the distant croak of frogs, the whispering wind, and the soothing notes of a piano being played in the twilight. She began to keep a journal, recording the little moments that made each day unique, the time she spotted a kingfisher darting across the water, its wings beating in rapid succession, or the evening she shared a glass of wine with an elderly couple whose laughter and stories were accompanied by the warm strumming of a banjo. But it wasn't all idyllic. There were days when the weather turned, bringing cold rain that pattered relentlessly on the roof, and gusty winds that made navigating the canal a challenge, their howling filling the small cabin like a dissonant chord. There were nights when loneliness crept in, the silence inside the boat almost deafening, broken only by the soft ticking of the clock and the distant, haunting notes of a violin. Yet, with each passing day, those moments became rarer. She grew more confident in her abilities and more content with the solitude, finding comfort in the melodies that seemed to follow her along the canal. One evening, as the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting the canal in shades of gold and orange, Emma moored Serendipity near a quiet village and decided to take a walk along the towpath. The air was cool, carrying the scent of wildflowers and damp earth, the distant sound of a church bell chiming marking the passing hour, accompanied by the soft, melancholic notes of an accordion played somewhere out of sight. She followed the path until she came to a stone bridge that arched over the canal, and there she stopped, leaning against the old stones, listening to the gentle murmur of water in a nearby stream. Looking out over the water, Emma realized how much she had changed in such a short time. The life she had left behind seemed distant, almost like a dream. This was her world now, one of endless possibilities, where each new day brought a new stretch of canal to explore, a new adventure to be had, and a new melody to accompany her journey. And as the sky turned from orange to deep blue, dotted with the first stars of the evening, Emma felt a quiet joy settle in her heart. The soft chatter of mallard ducks began to fill the air, harmonizing with the distant rustle of leaves, the gentle ripple of water against the boat's hull, and the slow, sweet notes of a violin. She had found something on these waterways, something she hadn't known she was looking for. Perhaps it was peace, or perhaps it was simply the realization that the life she had always wanted was within reach, set to the perfect score. Smiling to herself, Emma turned back towards Serendipity, eager to see where tomorrow's journey would take her. The canal stretched out before her, winding into the distance, and the gentle sounds of the night, like a soft lullaby, accompanied her steps. She knew that her story was just beginning, and it was set to a melody all her own.